I like this comment right here.
That is a good comment. Yeah.
Jaime Hawkes. More defense. Yeah, I like that.
Right, Seamus, I have a question for you. I mean, you
You're
be
muted.
Hold
really
on.
start.
Jaime Jaquez there. Jaime Jaquez. Jaime Jaquez was a good rookie, and second year kind of fell off. Right, so I'm not about that comparison necessarily with Jaime Jaquez because in my mind, Hugo is actually going to be potentially a better defender. My questions really remain on the offensive end, but this is where I kind of think, well, at this point in the draft, you are definitely picking a complementary player to, say, the Brown and Tatum, the Brown and Tatum tandem, right? The Brown and Tatum tandem. Hugo Gonzalez is definitely a complimentary player. Good finisher. I kind of have a good. I feel as if he can develop as a shooter, but there are questions about his ability to shoot the ball.
So do you think?
Which I'm a little. That is what I'm the most. I'm the most concerned about his ability to shoot the ball, and just if you think about on the offensive end of the floor, we've had guys like this on the Celtics before, where if they're forced to put the ball on the ground, what do they look like? The first guy that comes to mind, Shimi Ojale, right? Could not put the ball on the floor whatsoever. Yeah. Is Hugo Gonzalez going to be that same type of player to me? There is ability in him becoming a diversified offensive player because he does have a pretty good downhill attack and he's a good finisher. It's just I don't know about his creation level with the ball necessarily.
Do you see him
Aaron Neesmith without the shooting?
But I see him as a complimentary player. Like he's not going to be asked to do like he's only 19 first of all, so he's not to me he's not going to be a huge rotation piece right away. But I see him as a guy who's not necessarily going to be asked to do a bunch of things right away, and is going to slot in as somebody who's going to come in and be a nice defensive guard and somebody offensively that you have. Like I could see the combination of okay, he's a good driver. He can drive the ball to the rim. He doesn't have, the repertoire of shots. That's not what I see in his game. But if you can bring the 3-point shooting along, you have a guy who I see as can you mold him a little bit like Derek White? Can you mold him a little? He kind of reminds me of him because Derek White. We have to remind ourselves too. Derek White was not a great shooter coming out of San Antonio, even coming to the Boston Celtics. So the Celtics, if they think they can get that shot to come along, I think he could be a Derek White type of guy.
The Celtics are still in a good position. Obviously, there's something about Hugo Gonzalez's game that stood out a little bit more than Liam McNeely's, probably because they probably had a meeting with them and probably didn't expect that Liam McNeely was going to slip that far. I'm very curious to know what led to that slip. I don't recall reading up on any types of injuries or anything in his history in that sense, but walking away with Hugo Gonzalez, you might have a energetic defensive player who is going to be a on-ball and off-ball pest for the Celtics moving forward.
Yeah, James, I got a question for you, because or just anyone in this meeting.
Wait, hold up. I might be a little glitched. Am I glitched right now?
Nope, you're good.
No, you're good.
All right. I'm going to try to hear this question out here.
That McNeely, do the Celtics see that maybe Hugo Gonzalez potentially has a ceiling that could be greater than McNeely's? Do you think that's a possibility of why?
100%. 100%. I think that could be the basis of the pick at the end of the day, because McNeely, he does strike me as a Max Strus type of player. Mm-hmm. And although those guys can be valuable, as we see in Cleveland, I mean, they have Ty Jerome, Max Strus. They're a little similar.
With them, it would make sense.
Right.
Well,
but I feel like...
Well, I will say, it's Hauser's 40% from three. Hugo Gonzalez, 27% overseas. Right. But that's the thing with Hugo Gonzalez is, as a 19-year-old, I think you can bring the shooting along a little. Say Shireman last year, if he didn't have the shot at 23, that's a little more concerning if you don't have the shot at 19, right? This player's 19 coming in. That's what we all have to remind ourselves here, is he's very young, very moldable. Defensively, the minute the pick came through, I immediately went, whew, we just picked up maybe the best defender at this point in the draft. I like right now. I would
So-
say Adu Thero. Adu Thero. Keep in mind he's still there out there. I mean, number 32. Very quickly tomorrow it'll be 31, 32. Here we go.
So
Adu Thero is another guy I will look at for. I would look at if I were the Celtics when it comes to defense. I mean, I would have at this point in the draft. I would probably have Thero and Hugo Gonzalez as the two best defenders. And I wouldn't be surprised if the upside of Hugo Gonzalez as a 19-year-old played a factor into the pick, as well as the defensive end. The defensive end to me is that is the biggest thing for me. I immediately that pick was made, I went, oh, that's somebody who's going to come in here and just be a hound dog, and that's I like that, right? There's so many players in this draft where you go, defensively, I don't know, and like I don't like those guys. Like, and this is a good time to bring up. This is a good time to bring up this point here because I was going to bring it up on the draft preview, but I figured, hey, draft coverage. I mean, basically the same thing. So people look a little bit too closely at offense, right? In the draft, a little bit too closely at offense. What can this player do offensively? What kind of player can they turn into offensively? Because sometimes that can determine whether or not a player actually reaches stardom or not. However, defense sets floors. Defense sets floors. If you're a really good defender,
completely.
you're playable. You're playable,
Oh,
all right? If you can't defend whatsoever, you're not playable. If you can defend, you're playable. Well, 100%.
and to build on that,
Oops.
defend like having that defensive grit, grind, that mindset, like you're not getting by me. That's something that is just innate. Like that's something you build when you're younger, when you're born, like when just the way you grow up, So to kind of like instill that in a player is a lot harder.
And
From an offensive standpoint, you kind of build that up.
And I have this note right here, and tell me if this doesn't maybe fit in with Hugo Gonzalez. It's more likely one brings along their offensive intangibles, the shooting, the cutting, all the offensive intangibles, right? Than the defensive intangibles, pure athleticism, height, physicality, motivation, motor, right? I think it's easier sometimes to add to the offensive end, the shooting, the cutting, the creating, the playmaking, making certain guys see different reads and different angles on the floor and maybe getting that handle up a little bit in the shooting, right? Defense is a little more predicated on effort, a little more predicated on physicality, a little more predicated on athleticism. So if you already have that end of the floor, I believe the offensive end can come along more so in players' games. If they can't defend coming out of college, if you couldn't defend in college, why can you defend in the NBA? It's going to be 10 times harder in the NBA.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I'm not, and technically Hugo Gonzalez here is not coming from college. He's coming from Real Madrid, which I like too. I like about this
another
pick.
good thing.
He started at Real Madrid at 16 years old.
Who else
16.
did that? Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%. 100%. So I want to also compare this to Liam McNeely. Liam McNeely is how old here? The only thing, see, this is what McNeely is also 19 years old. So both are 19. So the age thing didn't play a factor in that. But I'll say this as well with McNeely. The Celtics didn't pick him. And who picked him? Phoenix, right? Or no, that pick's going to Charlotte in the Mark Williams trade. It seems as if Hugo Gonzalez will be playing in Boston next season. This is per Gary Washburn, Brad Stevens on Hugo Gonzalez. He's got all the intangibles of a winning basketball player. Said the plan is to bring Gonzalez over to Boston for this season. So right there, we can rule out. We talked about 5 minutes ago. Can he be maybe a draft and stash type of guy? He's left over in Real Madrid. Doesn't seem as if that's going to be the case here, and it looks like he's actually going to be in Boston next year. Hugo Gonzalez will be a Boston Celtic. Brad Stevens, again, I think he's a young guy, but a little bit of an old soul, Brad Stevens says about Hugo Gonzalez. And He kind of mentioned that in terms of in terms of the Hugo Gonzalez playing next to older veteran players in the Euro League. This is also what Brad Stevens had to say about Hugo Gonzalez. Just a big fan of how he plays. He's tough. He's hard playing. He cuts. He goes after the ball. He competes. He's got all of the intangibles of a winning basketball player. So Brad Stevens definitely in on Hugo Gonzalez, and he confirms that he's going to join the team next season. And it seems as if Hugo Gonzalez, there was a draft party, a watch party for Hugo Gonzalez over in Spain. There's a couple of nice videos from out of the draft party there. Officially a Boston Celtic. And I got to say, when you're going from Real Madrid to the Boston Celtics, you're going from amazing organization to amazing organization. So I also, from the standpoint of Hugo Gonzalez, I would think the maturity's got to be there, right? If you're going from Real Madrid, who you played for since 16, to the Boston Celtics, I mean, those are two of the best basketball organizations in the world. And just, I mean, Real Madrid, they're more than basketball organization. We know how great they are in football too, in soccer, right? So I'm a fan of that as well. I like guys who come there's something to be said about that in any sport. Guys who come from good programs. You look at football, right? It's
Right.
like Alabama guys, Georgia guys, they're the best. Well, this is Hugo Gonzalez. He's coming from Real Madrid. I understand it's overseas and you got to compare the overseas numbers and yada yada. And that's something hard too that's hard to evaluate is when a guy plays overseas, the same opportunities and the same style of play. Franco, you kind of touched on it earlier. The style of play is very different from the NBA. And also think about a guy who's starring at a college in the United States, a university in the United States versus over in Spain. Say he's the eighth, ninth, 10th man on a professional team, right? And let's make this clear too. We're drafting a professional player. He's already a
Lucas said
professional. We're not
that
drafting
scoring in
a
the
college
NBA
guy
was easier.
necessarily.
Lucas said
So
scoring in the NBA was easier.
Yeah, that's what they say. Yeah, right. Because it's a little more less hand.
and it's true though. There could be a little bit more space there in the NBA for Hugo Gonzalez to operate. And again with the pick, I don't see him doing a ton. I just see him as a piece that can fit in with the rotation, and I don't see him as somebody who is right now at least somebody who is anywhere near a starter. I mean, he's going to be
No.
a 9th, 10th, 11th guy if that. But that's kind of where the Celtics need to build out to because this past year, I think the Celtics their overall depth was definitely sus, definitely suspicious the whole season.